Johnny, I'm going to try to find the space. Are you able to give us an update on the CAS project?
The CAS agent?
Whatever's going on in TSC with CAS.
Aye. There was, well, is that now? Right now? You want me to do that?
No, when we get started, I'm going to throw a spot on here for you.
All right. Just to check, what do you want to know? Technicals, or what do you want to
know? I will circle back. Hang on.
Sorry.
No. You're good. You're good. I think this is the same thing from two different angles. Yeah, it's repo migration.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. All right. We'll put that somewhere here in new business.
Hey guys, sorry, I was just toggling audio devices, so it took me a while to join you.
You are good.
Do you have the ClickUp that you could put up? Because I just have my notes. Okay.
Sorry, I might be a little more prepared. Okay. Why do I have to, oh, because it's all. Let's see. All right. Hey, Georgia, thanks for coming.
Hello, hi everyone.
Let me make sure I'm on the right page first. Okay, so I would ask, bear with us here just a little bit. So we are going to get started on some things, but we do have Georgia joining us from Intersect, and so unless there is an issue from anybody, we're going to look at moving one of the new business items up to the front since we have somebody here. So agenda is going up now. Today it's pretty straightforward. So as we talked about the last time we were here, committee member actions, we've also started talking about some separate workspace meetings or private meetings as necessary, and that will all continue to evolve. The other thing, I'll just mention it asynchronously here, make sure that you guys are taking a look at that onboarding document, even if it's just giving it a glaze over. As of our next meeting, we have new electorates. So please have a look at that. And if you need help, let me know. We'll talk some more about the strategy draft and basically how you guys want to realign that, following up from the last time. We'll hear from Johnny at some point here on the KES project and potentially migrating that repo. But what we'll start with here is this budget management conversation, and we've got Georgia here to give us a little bit of thought, and then we'll put that in front of the committee. So,
Yeah. So basically, I asked Tex earlier to come to the call, basically just to discuss with everyone, to start looking at priorities when the budget proposal gets passed. So obviously, with the OSD, it looks like your guys' budget proposal is going to be passed when the vote happens. So we kind of want to get those conversations started with priorities in the proposal itself. So basically to help out with Intersect procurement, things to start planning, because I know you guys have a lot of kind of like grant style applications as well. So like starting to look at how those will work when the applications are hopefully going to be open, and kind of just like prioritize your list a bit so that we know what to start looking at. And then even with events, if there's events coming up in summer that you need funds for, just so that we have a bit of a plan to start to go off. So I don't know, Tex, whether maybe if we got up the proposal to go through it, or is there any like initial thoughts and things that you guys have spoken about previously to start prioritizing?
Yeah, if it wasn't covered in what you've just mentioned, and anything else that comes that you can give us from Intersect on the process would be helpful. That was the request of the committee members when this came up in conversation. Other than that, we can get right into discussion with the voting members and kind of just toss some thoughts around. And then if you hear something that sounds like that works or that might need something to be done a little bit differently, you can let us know why you're here.
Yeah. So I think obviously with the vote closing soon and then with the Treasury withdrawal being around the 14th. So I think with the governance action and everything, they're looking at maybe like the plus 30 days with having that raised and obviously with the Treasury withdrawal. So we're kind of looking at 12 weeks until the funds will be technically available, but then obviously then we've got to plan the prioritization from that. So it's trying to get you guys to give some thoughts on how you want to prioritize things from there. And obviously if we can start kicking off the conversations about, like I said, your application processes and maybe starting to set some of those up, it could really help us with getting the contract set up as soon as possible. Because obviously once the funds are out, you're going to want to start kickstarting this work. So helping us have a bit of a clearer idea on what you want to prioritize, we can start getting the ball rolling really.
Yeah. Lucas, I'll pass that on to you.
Yeah, well, we have I think all I can come up with is sharing the screen, looking at the proposal, and opening the conversation to the committee's members to start prioritizing. Does that sound good?
Yes. Yeah, no, that sounds good. I think from my side, when I was going through your guys' proposal this morning, obviously with the developer advocate program, we have, if you wanted to do something similar in terms of contract, in terms of their milestones, we already have those set up. So obviously I think it says in there like a new cohort. However, that could be something that's quite an easy win maybe at the start. Because it's the 4 developer advocates, we've got the proposals. Obviously we'll need conversations about milestones, etc. if you wanted them the same, but that one could be an easy win, but obviously it's completely up to what you guys want. So yeah, Christian.
Yeah. Sorry everybody, I've been out for a while, but I'm back. Developer advocates, I think it makes sense to do the same thing. Just we'll figure out who the new cohort is based on OSC guidelines. The maintainer retainer program, we do have some qualification criteria, and I think it could follow the same contract template as developer advocates, just tailored to a different reporting mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to individually review those based on the projects that these maintainers are going for. And then the tooling sustainability, Adam, I think we could probably follow what the TSC was doing previously for reviewing proposals, right? Something similar. Just get some feedback mechanisms with working groups or something.
Selling us
No, we
on.
haven't formed it yet. All that's pending. I was waiting for the baby to be done. But I think those are the maintainer, retainer, and the tooling sustainability are kind of the big budget items first. So I think it makes sense to get those underway since they have the longest duration. The other ones are quite simple. Bug bounty, it's just, I think I already have a doc on how that'll be issued. I just need to finalize with y'all's approval and the Security Council the bounty amounts. I think is kind of the last contentious point. Incident monitoring response is just a resource hire. Very simple. And the code for us. I think the budget committee gave us contacts that had run a Google Summer of Code type program before. I'll reinitiate
Who did,
that.
sorry?
The budget committee. We had presented it a long time ago when everything was going through committees.
Mhm.
And I think it was Chris Baird and someone else we were supposed to get in contact with. I think it was it Lucas in Argentina. I think his name was. I'll find out. Chris Kowalski remembers.
Mhm.
Can you scroll down, Tex or Lucas, whoever's steering?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Sorry, you
other.
want to look at this one or more?
I'm just trying to make sure the code for us will follow the same thing as the bug bounty, but we can identify the projects we want sponsored in that as well.
Mhm.
I'm just feel free to correct me. This is just what makes sense to the top of my head for each of the programs.
Yep. Okay, so we've covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe let's fly over to see what we're missing, what we haven't mentioned so far. We have this one, Code for Us, you've just mentioned it. Cardano Summer of Code.
Yeah, that's the one when I need to get in touch with someone who's done that process before.
But it's not the same as this one at all, right? So it's completely different things. So I'm just going to add it here, right?
Yeah, I don't have specific details on that, just that there's a budget for it.
So again, what I'm doing on the left side of the screen is trying to prioritize in terms of low-hanging fruits, right?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to get developer advocate and maybe bug bounty as the first two.
Mhm.
Because I think bug bounty is kind of the biggest community request right now. And then maintainer, retainer, and tooling sustainability. Because I think even though we get the budget approved, the maintainer retainer probably won't take off until a month after budget comes in. Possibly.
Okay, so we have Cardano Summer of Code. We have this one, Accelerator Research Program.
Let's
That's for
touch
later,
base.
right?
Yeah, that one's Chris Kowalski as well. I think they have their call later today where that could be discussed.
Okay. So we'll basically, we should come by their call and place the same question in terms of, or well, it's not just so much to place a question to them, it's more in terms of us telling them how we're going to facilitate funds. And I've been going there and asking for an operationalization plan, if that's the term, sorry. And I keep seeing that they have a proposal, but they don't really say who's going to do what. And they seem to say, okay, that's going to be the easy part. We can do that, no stress, but they're not actually writing it. So on this topic, I would go back there, and if you agree, let me know. If you agree that making it come to true is just the easiest part, maybe, yeah, let me know. But for me, that's what I'm seeing. It's like before we give them the cash and all that, we should ask a bit more of planning from them to keep them accountable.
Yeah, 100%. I'll make sure that gets done with Chris. Next week is my whole catch up. Also, here's a quick draft doc. This is initial ideas that I had behind the maintainer retainer and the code forest program. I imagine tooling sustainability can follow in the same process. It's kind of a program framework. I need to read it. I think this draft was in March when it was created, maybe earlier. So it ties in some TSC collaboration on stuff just as well. Very rough draft. I'm happy to do other mechanisms.
Other times.
Sorry.
Well, I apologize for going backwards here, but we still have Georgia, right?
Yeah, still have.
Okay. I just wanted to understand from, I guess, the Intersect point of view as an administrator, or from the committee's point of view as well, everything that we're talking about sounds as if we would just be directing how the funds are spent, but that the funds for open source committee would essentially go to CDH to then be dispersed as directed because of these contracts. Am I understanding that correctly? Or is there, like, are we going to have to create some type of multi-sig wallet and that it's got to be done separately? What's that process looking like? I think is the bigger questions that we had.
Yeah, so this is a conversation that I was having with Ryan earlier as well, actually. So these things are still being discussed at the moment. I don't have the answers right now, but it does look like in the next week or so we will. So we can get someone back in. Do you have these calls every week?
Every other week.
Every other week, okay. Even if not, I can send you text, basically our outcomes of the next couple of days, because we're sorting all of this now. So hopefully we'll be able to give you a bit of a clearer picture, but I don't want to give you some information now that turns out to be wrong in the next couple of days or so. But I'll be able to give you an update.
Personally, hello, sorry. Personally, I would like to see some sort of standard operation procedure of how the money workflow is going to go, just so we know we have context across committees. Is there a
Yeah.
standard procedure, or is it ad hoc by committee? Because there was some suggestion that it might be ad hoc by committee, and it may be a bit afraid.
From what we've been discussing, I don't think it will be ad hoc, but I will be able to get the operation flow to you. That's kind of like what we're doing currently now.
Thank you.
So
Thank you very much.
yeah, I'll take that action to get that back.
Okay. So, Christian, am I okay to close this one for now? In terms of
Yeah,
maintain
you are.
return program? Okay.
It's a very detailed document. If we can get something summarized, I'm all in
It's
favor.
something that I might have to take on, or someone might have to take on, to try and convert it into like a questionnaire or a series of questions that come out of the document that hit the requirements. Right, it needs to be translated down into something that's something that the people applying to be on it can actually interact with.
Yeah, I when I go through a thought process, I go deep into it. So my bad.
It's good. It's good. It can be mined.
So I'm just making copying this one over as well. Any thoughts on expanded project support services?
That one's kind of at the discretion of the OSC to use to support different projects if there's legal consulting or different things like that. So those are like ad hoc contracts, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So just as a method, if we're going to use another product or service to extend that support or go on a specific contract with a provider, the church is a longstanding with the partnership. But let's say even if we move beyond the conflict of interest and we were going to use 45B to give us a short-term, here we're going to develop a course or learning or whatever else you're doing, those type of contracts would come to OSC to oversee and approve, and then no, I don't. I hope that explains it differently.
Okay, yeah. So it aligns very much with the service catalog, just for anyone that hasn't taken a look at it recently. So this is something that we've been maturing for a while. Some of them are more closer to find vendors and actual projects. Some others are just ideas. So no questions there, right?
There's a question in the chat from Adam whether we need to identify every tooling provider and or repository maintainer and put them through some Intersect know your customer. I don't know what KYB appreciate.
Know your business.
Know your business.
KYB, yeah.
Yeah, I've just sent that one to the ops channel on Slack. If they get back to me in the next 10 minutes, I will be able to answer it. If not, I'll send the answer text to get back to you on that one.
Did we do that for the developer advocates, Georgia?
Yeah, so they would have been KYC'd. So I think the standard over the last year has been KYCing, KYBing everyone that we're working with. With the contract, obviously that we've been sending out to the other proposals, they're all going through the KYC, KYB process at the moment. But obviously, because the committees will be doing this separately, obviously for individual of your line items, it might be similar, but I will confirm it with the team.
Okay.
Got it.
So when we get input on that, you can maybe you have access to our OSC internal channel to give us some response asynchronously, or how can we fast track that rather than just waiting for 2 weeks?
Yeah, we'll let y'all know immediately, either text or me from Georgia.
Yeah, we have comms channels, so hopefully it'll come in text at least.
Mhm.
If you want, I can call you personally, Lucas.
No, no, no. I just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure that the group is aware. You know, events and travel. So this one is as well to use ad hoc, right? I'll assume that's a yes.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you. So that's it. Any thoughts so that we can progress on today's call?
Comment from Adam on process for KYC, KYB, and chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think, Adam, if I'm not mistaken, due to us being in Wyoming, there is the restriction to like 3 countries based on US law. I know it's like Afghanistan and 2 others. I just can't remember where.
Yes, I'm sorry. Well, I'll let you drive.
Oh, Iran. There we go.
Georgia, I know it's not directly you, but maybe we can all get in a room if you know the right people, or pull me into op services at some point. I think it would be really beneficial if we can work out a plan and then talk with the web team and try to make KYC voluntary if we can. If it's voluntary, then we can just check the system and they will have already provided the information. You know what I mean?
Or then make it something that's just available.
Yes, if it's
Beforehand,
just
okay.
available, we tell them they have to have done this before they qualify for whatever. If they don't, we just share a link. We don't have to sit here and collect their email and go through and whatever else. Yes, some of those things we should do anyway, that we will throughout the process. But if that's on the website, it's very simple to boom and here to go get your KYC. Even if that's we don't have to take the time here, but I just want to push that along, and please let me in if we can work on that.
Yeah, so the thing with our KYC system at the moment, it's a unique link. So you have to generate a unique link every time. I mean, there would be a way, I guess, if you wanted to keep generating the unique link, but I'm not sure how that would translate onto the website. But it's something we could maybe ask the provider about.
Yeah, I wonder. Maybe Adam, I can tie you into that too. I don't want to overuse you, and if I have to go back to the other Adam or even the summon team, the magic link, I don't know how familiar we are with that, and if those two can be merged in any similar sense. I need to understand it more. Anyway, we won't take the time here.
I'm just going over the topics one last time. Let me know if you have any thoughts that you want to mature on any of those, the ones that we've covered so far. Incident and monitoring response. I don't think we added this one to the list. Well,
That's
not
2
on-
positions, is it?
You say again?
Is that 2 positions? I only have it as 87.5, so that would be just 1 position.
Yeah, it's 1 person and some technology. It's for a 6-month contract.
Yeah,
Just,
that's a dated view that you have there, Lucas.
Which one?
The columns that you have are, I say dated. That might be an error on my side. It is. The table above shows a different amount.
Okay,
Back
so,
up.
but I was just trying to make sure we have this prioritized somewhere on the left side. And I'm not sure we've moved this one over, included it in our priorities here.
You can include it probably somewhere after 5. I think
Okay.
getting someone to help with the Security Council is quite important. Granted, we're still here by then.
Okay. Mhm.
Just a quick
Any-
question from me. Sorry, the
Go on.
number 2, the bug bounty program, is that similar to, I guess, maintainer retainer in the fact that it's like a grant process, or would it be like what type of contract are we looking at with that one?
Maintainer retainer is supporting 100 maintainers to support projects, like 50 projects altogether, integrating into core and others. The bug bounty is just a bucket of funds available for core Cardano or what's under Intersect. If someone finds an issue, they submit the request, they get a certain amount and reward for finding that issue, essentially.
Okay.
So, and then the code for us is the exact same thing as the bug bounty, but it's a small pool of cash for features that projects say they need developed. So someone develops that feature and gets paid for it.
And with those, are you setting up, I guess, like a request log or something that people are going to be utilizing?
I have a potential solution for this. I just got the recording yesterday. It's going live today.
Okay.
A potential platform for this is Andamio, but that's more for the code for us, I believe. The bug bounty might require a GitHoney integration, but you're going to hear some more about that in Andamio, so I'd encourage everyone to take a look at that. It's basically a community platform that we might be able to utilize. It is on-chain transactions as well. So it's further validity, and it handles the audit portion for a very small overhead. So there's some things to look at that way. It's undetermined. The committee has not had a chance to make a decision. So
yeah, no, good. I was just thinking in terms of like with that being set up, and then like how long it would be afterward to start like releasing the funds for each. But that's all good.
Well, the funds release, that's the interesting part. So it would have to, we could structure it so whatever. I think there was original idea about like a monthly draw from our portion of it, and so that monthly draw could go into the bucket. But yeah, we would still need to have the committee prioritize requests, and then I would probably be the one taking that back to the platform to put in those different pieces. But there's quite a bit of content generation that would be required with that as well. So that's why it's undetermined at the moment.
Yeah, no, all good. All good.
Sorry, Christian was asking on the chat.
It's figuring out if you do KYC for bug bounty payments or something like that. So I'm just going to ask one of our foundation friends how they do it.
Okay, great. Next steps, anyone? I think this gives us a nice picture of what we can attack first.
Action items for me, I'll come up with a quick slide deck over the proposed payment methods for the OSC to review related to the program, because I think we're going to get this approved. That summarizes a detailed doc that I crafted. That way it's easy to go through this or critique. Unless you want just a memo, Adam, I know you hate my PowerPoints.
I think it's a memo.
I know we're down to 30 seconds. Any last minute questions for Georgia while she's here?
Well, something that I'm curious about is with like this operational flow relating to wallets and things like those. You know, really curious because, as you know, there's responsibility to be shared, and if we go with a multi-sig, it's completely different than going with smart contracts. Smart contracts articulate a lot with processes that probably aren't defined, or we would love to see them. The processes, workflows very well established and agreed before someone writes smart contracts for them. You know, so it can get quite tricky, and it's important to jump on the topic and start having people share a view. And something that we've discussed as well is that it doesn't make sense to be just talking about the OSC budget. It's about, you know, a lot of other committees and maybe even other proposals or some kind of tooling that's going to be reused. So that's my.
I think your chief concern is about funds getting locked or lost somehow. Just making sure that nothing bad happens to the flow of money.
Yeah, I'll take it as an action to speak to our team over the next day or so, and hopefully by next week we'll have something to show you. Like I said, I'll send it to Christian and Tech, and he can share it asynchronously, because yeah, it's something that we need to understand, and even for like all this prioritization work, we need to know how this is going to work. So I'll get that back to you.
Okay.
Thank you very
super.
much.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks for having me, guys. I do need to drop, but I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Same. Take care.
Thanks.
All right. I think that was a nice overview of things, and congratulations to especially the OSO for writing the proposal and for, pushing everything. I think it was a huge success in terms of the budget being approved and the whole initiative being validated by the community. So congrats for that.
Well,
But yeah,
votes are
there's a lot.
changeable, but yes, we're looking good.
Could you say again?
I was just saying votes are changeable and the deadline's 5th of May, but we're looking good.
Yeah. Cool. Tex?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in. I was just going to mention or follow that up. So basically, what happened here? This is all of you all as the committee coming together, participating in the committee calls here and asynchronously. So I'm putting that out there because we do share all of our recordings publicly. We're fully open and transparent in that manner. So anyone in the community that's watching, anyone that's going to be joining this committee, just understand that, yeah, the work is really, really high speed here. We're going to push things out, and the perfect segue for me, if you're okay, Lucas, would be to go to the next agenda item, which is basically the strategy rework. So
Yeah, sure. Just scrolling through my notes here. Strategy rewrite. I'm just opening that document. And overall,
yeah, I was going to say there's the document, but it's probably better to go back to here. With the actual strategy, because what was discussed last time is maybe some brief changes in the context and the summary, but the main core changes here would be leaving the mission, vision, values kind of untouched, and then just reframing the goals and actions considering a potentially longer timeline.
Yeah, I watched last week's recording, so it didn't go planned. So I'll answer the main question that was asked. I was asking for us to re-review this because it should be an annual thing, annual strategy. I think, quote unquote, we set up the processes for 2 of the 5 goals. We accomplished 2 of the 5, and then 1 was pending basically for the paid open source model to take place. So me and Tex owe a life cycle evaluation of each of the projects. We did the survey. That was the one we completed, and we got the security stuff up and running. The diversified maintainers is the other goal that we're missing. And the governance policy is what we need to ensure that everyone was following. And that's been on hold just until Plowman was done. But Q2, I'm meeting with all the project leads starting next week to ensure the policies are being followed. So
I have an update, at least for the first 30 repositories here that are public. This is up to date as of yesterday. So we can see where there are a couple of repos that are missing quite a bit. We do have a number of repos, though, that are fully complete. So the documentation ones, those are Intersect internal. That's directly my management here. But API is complete. CLI is complete. Cardano base just has a small error with the feature idea, I believe. We've got Cardano updates that is complete with governance. So a number of these, but like I said, I got down to 31, and I got to do the rest of it. But and the security policy, if it says update, it just means that they have our new security policy, but they don't have the right repo. So that's a small edit. The orange is that it's either missing or it has an old, or rather not the Intersect security policy. So yeah, it's not great, but this is the encouragement or the call to action that says make sure that for any time that you are consulting with these technical partners, if you are consulting with the developer in any capacity, ask them or start to try to understand which projects they're on. And we can start to build that list and just local knowledge of, hey, who do I go to contact and make sure that this gets up to date. These here you'll see move. It means that they do have it. It's just not at the top level. We're encouraging or pushing the top level, as I've understood from the committee's agreement. That makes it easier from a developer experience standpoint and making Cardano approachable and a better desire to develop. So I'll take any questions if you have them. But
this hits the documentation aspect of it. We also need to leverage, as Adam just pointed out, Bitergia, just to help roll out some of the metric stuff according to our acceptance criteria that we outlined last year, and try to evaluate the health of projects. The other thing that I'm coming into is there's something that the Open Source Security Foundation came out with called Project Baseline, which is like the baseline best practices for security. And it ties into a tool you can run for the repos just to grade them. And I've already done that for core, at least. I'm trying to get the Security Council to agree that that's something we should evaluate as a factor for projects as well. Like if they don't have these basic security processes, that should be a red flag. So that's coming. I need to rerun it against all the projects, but I did in April last year, and not everything was a green light. So, but I'll have more detail on that at least in 30 to 60 days from now.
We have the elections about to end and a new cohort of members joining us as members are rotating off. Maybe we can revisit the goals once we know who is on the committee going forward.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The idea is to wait until we know who made who was elected in the current election, so that we know who the new committee is, and then discuss the goals and goal setting with them, which is all one meeting from now, I believe.
Yeah, that makes sense. The whole point for this was to show where we came. We made it about 40 out of 100%, I think. Or if you give credit for having half of 2 done, then maybe a 60. But we do need to redo 5 and 4, I think, on the policy of things to aim for. And to answer your question too, Adam, the Security Council or nominations, they're there until they decide to step down. They just get evaluated by the TSC once they're nominated, I think. The last person we had was the CTO of CF join, I believe. I got the process written somewhere. I'll share it with you.
So one thing that we're getting on the chat as well is, and what Georg and Adam was seconding, is that we should maybe let the work on the strategy open until we get people onboarded. Is everyone agreeing to that on the committee? Thumbs up.
That's what George put forward there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I accept that if half the committee's changing out, the goals should probably be decided by the new makeup of the committee. Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Settled then. Thank you.
And just to follow up, another thing that will help with very concrete goal setting as well will be actually having an approved and finalized budget and knowing what we are funded to do, right? So that will help add more goals to the list with knowledge of funding available to fulfill them.
Okay. Next topics. So we had the strategy, we had budget, in terms of budget, you know, it's ongoing. And we've had Georgia here. I think, do we have anything else, Tex, on the old
There was
business?
old business.
We, I
No,
think we
nothing
had
else
on-
on old business. It was just committee member engagement.
yeah. So for the committee onboarding, there's the slides, right, that we could have a look at, no? Or, I think you flashed those
Yes.
just now, didn't you?
And
I'm gonna drop the link on the chat, and I can share my screen if you prefer. One second. Okay. Just opening it up and putting it down. Here we go. So were these used when on the last elections as well, or? I don't think I remember going over these.
They were. This was presented
Yeah.
in October.
Sorry.
November.
Yeah, I attended a session and watched them being presented. I remember.
Okay, so. Maybe I can make it bigger. So this is what we're going to be showing on next call when we start onboarding people, right?
There was an additional session last time just for onboarding, if I remember correctly.
Okay, okay.
Unless I'm wrong. Oh, I know there was.
Yeah, be aware. I don't know if any of this has changed given the governing board meeting today. Now that Jack's kind of restructuring Intersect's goals and structure,
Mhm.
so we're all tentative on that. But for right now, this is the same thing we're going for.
Okay.
So I'll let y'all know when I know more.
Okay. And I think that saved it. Yeah, thank you. What are we here for? The Open Source Committee generates an open source strategy for Cardano to follow, advise on, and promote open source activities across the ecosystem. Be a rallying point for members to get advice on building in an open source environment. That's the strategy. I'm kidding. I think that's a good screen. And any thoughts?
Well, again, if and when there's a budget passed, there's more meat that you can put on the bone on this, right? You can talk about very specific things that are being done. Because
Mhm.
last time when we came on board, a budget was still being developed. But now, if it's actually developed, proposed, and passed, there's a lot more to discuss about, like how it's going to work.
Mhm.
It might help also to include the mission vision statements from the strategy itself. I think that kind of reflects the more current vision.
Mhm. Okay, so I'm just adding it here as presenter notes, and we could have those documents handy to fly over. Anything else? Moving to the next one. Is this still okay?
Any updates needed?
I think it's
Developer advocates will be new cohort. Everything else is the same depending on budget. So at least Intersect's budget.
this one's been it's something that we've
Yeah.
lacked. Yeah, maybe we can
It's part of
remove it
Intersect's
now.
budget. I was trying to bring in a third resource, but
Okay.
if we get shot down before the end of the week, that's a no-go.
Okay. What else? Yeah, let's not dive so much into this today, but I think it's still valid, right? So moving on.
Obviously, it needs to be updated to no longer be 2024, but it does show a history. Maybe it would
Yeah,
be
this one
useful.
is more on the history. That's why it was established
Yeah, sorry.
back in at this time. That's what these
Maybe
are.
update to the current time then.
Yeah,
Mm.
I'll update it.
Okay.
I probably should also get the status report finally done for the onboarding too, just so y'all are aware as well where we are.
Okay.
Last 6 months have been crazy.
Indeed, sir. Indeed.
Um,
In more ways than one.
Yeah, my boots were made for walking, but they don't even know where to go.
Yeah, this didn't really happen, and
Yeah,
not sure
I would
how
say
where we were.
everything gets pushed back a quarter right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
pretty
just
much.
rename.
Q1, if I get the budget approved. That's it.
Yeah. Q1 was just budget. And okay, so just trying to be swift today, and maybe we can have a look asynchronously.
Yep.
Okay. We don't have a link to the catalog on this one. Maybe we could, right? So this is about, it's the same thing that we were talking about there on the expanded support services that aligns with the services catalog.
I'm
Correct?
going to do my best to get that updated because it is on aged slides. So I need to update that to the new template and then also revise some of the information and make it look a little bit better. I think that one slide as it is, I mean, that's really the core piece of it, but some of the rest of it can be explained a little bit better. So I'm going to write that out based on, some ways of working that have been going on.
Okay. Thank you. And moving on. Oh, I spoke too soon. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this part.
Yeah, we'll make this deck a lot simpler to read.
Just
I think
curious.
we overdid it with information.
Okay. Need to zoom out to look at this one.
This one can actually go away because the next slide has the same information, but with the, yeah, you can take it out entirely.
Yeah.
I'll take it out. It's fine.
Oh, okay. You can delete it, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have the paid open source model. We don't need to put concept or road to. I mean, we're here at this point. So, but yeah.
Cool. I think that was a nice way of, getting familiar with the slides. I'm going to drop them on the chat on the internal channel on Discord. And yeah, that's one last topic. Let me just go back to my notes.
We're just down to Johnny.
Hello. So CAS agent. Yeah. So there was a meeting yesterday, TSC, about CAS agent and whether or not it counts as core development. Now it is going to have some elements of it integrated into the Cardano node tentatively. Oh, well, again, it was tentatively, but Adam was saying is dissenting vote no. That's interesting because in the meeting yesterday with Gorham, there were no objections to bring it in. Adam, you've got any comments to make? That is to say, adopting it in the Intersect as a repository. It was worked on by a single employee of Well-Typed at the time and has been demoed to people. Let's see. Let's read this comment from Adam. There is no identified lead customer or user for the CAS agents, and all of the SPOs who've heard of it hate the concept, so why should we adopt it and maintain it now forever? Yeah, it does need to be socialized properly, and people have expressed confusion before in things like moving to an external metrics server. Yeah, I can understand the feedback. So there's contention?
Johnny, do you have a link for the repo?
Yeah, I'll see if I can get it for you. One second.
Just getting ready to pull it up. I didn't have time to put this into a so back history on this was a IOG, I guess, trying to hand it to Intersect. I caught it mid pass and want to make sure committee's back it before we just adopted it. It was coming through Lawrence, but now he's gone. So I'm trying to make sure everyone's okay with that. TSC is already thumbs up, but I wanted y'all's opinion too. And this also serves as a use case of what do you settle for if one committee says yes, the other says no.
Johnny, since you're our other partner on TSC there, is there anybody else, since Adam may or may not have made it to the meeting yesterday, that had a dissent from TSC?
No, there were no other defense in the meeting yesterday. So Adam had his apologies due to other issues. Yes. Sadly, it didn't get raised and discussed. It would have been nice. Apologies. He would have strongly objected, he says in chat. So sadly, we missed that. I would have liked to hear it. Open the discussion.
Same.
But yeah, if it did get brought over, if it got determined as core, this is all speculative. If it got determined as core, then the maintenance would be done by TSC. But there was some question about whether or not it should be held under OSC, and that's where we were in yesterday's meeting.
Yeah, they were gonna hold it under the TSC for maintaining it.
Is this owned by IO, but WellType is developing?
WellType was hired to create it.
Yeah, and I'll give more context as to what it is. So what it is it's moving the CAS rotation keys from being on disk to being in memory in a secured memory pocket, using a high availability structure of 3 different servers to make sure it doesn't disappear from memory. If one goes down, it can propagate when another comes back up, kind of thing. So it's at least 3 services running on 3 servers to maintain CAS in secure memory, which means that it can't be hacked for signing purposes of block minting and things like that. So it's an additional setting up of best practice security, but it has a lot of technical requirements and high availability setup requirements, and people are used to the existing CAS rotation method, so they might reject it outright.
Georg?
When we are discussing the S agent to go under the TSC and then maintainership transferring, what I had always assumed is that the current maintainers will continue to work there. What is the resource requirement on the TSC for this, and where?
Well, in this case, it doesn't mean the TSC will do the work to maintain it. It means they oversee to make sure that there is maintenance being done. As far as I understand, so making sure there is someone working on that. I don't believe the TSC's position is actually to do maintenance of code, but someone can correct me on this.
Yeah, I guess I have some strong questions about oversight, especially noting the current conditions, environmental conditions right now.
You say a lot in very short sentence.
Yeah, well, if we're going based on sentiment that's out there right now, there's the IOE contract over the TSC, and I'm not going to get into that situation, but the question is that if that's there, and if this is something that I don't know if it's within their proposal or not, but it seems I guess I'm not understanding, and I don't know if this is where some of Adam's frustration comes from. Why is this coming to Intersect where we're not a development organization? We're facilitating for the community. But
I think it may just be following on from the fact, like things like Cardano node itself and other repositories have been migrated under Intersect, so it's kind of a follow on for that previous procedure, but it may be time to question.
My big question, I guess, would be, because I'm really pushing this piece, is has the community accepted this as part of code, and what does that look like?
Well, as Adam said in chat, the SPO community, who this would affect, have been resistant to change in the past, and this hasn't really been totally socialized to them yet. There has been a public demo, and people could come to a meeting, and even in that, there was some contention. about whether or not there'd be pushback in that meeting. Demo was made, and another aspect to it was they didn't have their own authentication methodology, and they were suggesting using SSH tunneling, which had some pushback because it opens up some security issues as well. An alternative would be to use something like a VPN tail scale WireGuard setup to do TCP connections, and that would be less security issues around it. But again, it requires a great deal of re-coordination of SPO setups, and without having actually consulted them on it first. Yeah. So yeah.
That's what we're talking to here. This is an incubation project. Now that we have this process set up, I'm not just accepting anyone saying, "Hey, migrate this." We have to go through our process. So the only avenue is to get the TSC and OSC to approve it, or the governing board overrules and we just migrate it. So that's the back door. But
I agree with Adam that it'll probably end up not being very popular, at least to begin with, unless people can explain it, the benefits of it.
Yeah, well, if we were to incubate it, we could keep it in that tier 1 rather than tier 2, 3, where it doesn't necessarily qualify for support. It needs a proof of concept, and if it doesn't go anywhere, it just becomes an archive after a year.
It is a running service demo that works and does what it says on the tin, but it doesn't have authentication built in. That's the missing piece.
Gotcha.
So if the maintainer, which right now there's a single person behind the code, wants to go through the incubation process with us to get the mentorship and solve the shortcomings that we see right now and strive for community adoption, I think that's the whole purpose of the incubation process. And if it turns out after whatever a year that, hey, you're not getting through the hurdles that we foresee right now, and the community is not adopting it, then they can archive it or they can take it somewhere else.
What's very interesting, it's not. I was going to sort of touch on what Adam just said. So Adam says it's not integrated into the core node, and there's a question about who, what, why it would get paid to perform that integration work. +1 to allowing them to be a pilot for the incubation program. Yeah, it is up in the air. So it would be a good thing to go through a more tentative process. At the time of the demo, there was one developer contracted out from Well-Typed to make KES Agent, and that one developer was the one doing the demo in the open session.
Yeah, well, and I think backdoor knowledge right now is that might be in jeopardy too, because theoretically IO
I didn't want to mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, since it's been mentioned, there's something potentially about the Well-Typed contracts coming up.
So the risk, if we do accept it into the incubator, the contract for the developer ends and no one else picks it up. Worst that happens, we archive it and stop supporting it.
Yeah.
At least it continues to exist as a record in that case.
It can qualify for a pilot and also a return to green if it fails pretty fast. Same thing with the Cardanominal project. This is why I wanted the incubation program set up, because we were told to bring that over. And then TX Pipe wanted a expensive contract to maintain it, but we still weren't sure of its use case and didn't sign anything, and now it's been sitting dormant for a year.
I just want to flag real quick. I've seen this where a project is moved from a company into a foundation or an open source project, and as soon as it's moved over, the development stops, and internally the company, the employees, they can say, hey, check, we moved it out into the open, they meet some requirements that they had internally, but then they lose full interest and support to work on it, and then it just sits in the open source community and no one takes it on. So I've seen that before. That's the sense that I'm getting we might be facing here.
Yeah. Well, and it could be that sandbox phase, right? So,
Well, the
but
most positive, the
parent
most,
company right now is desperately wanting to move it over, but I want agreed sentiment.
Where do we have the requirements for what we accept into the incubation process? I was looking in our committee docs, and I'm not quite sure where we have those requirements.
So the closest we have is the tooling sustainability working proposal. Here, I can share my screen for that. Which is these kind of categories right now. And I guess things that quote unquote fall under core, which would be node, ledger, etc. But we haven't really broken into extensive detail what that is. But I think based on what we have right now in the Intersect library, it's kind of, we have tooling, voting stuff, GovTool, and core. I don't think we really have anything else at the moment.
definitely needs to be fleshed out then. And a lot of things seem to be like, is this tooling? And just thrown into tooling without much more thought beyond that. So that's something to probably create a process around.
Agreed. Okay. I'll do a follow-up in the TSC channel then. Just to get kind of dialogue going there about OSC concerns. I can keep you anonymous if you want, Adam. Okay. So I'll do that in my follow-up.
He's here and he's strong in his statements. So.
Yeah, Adam likes to be the bullseye.
So
The
just
meeting
sharing
is
my
also
screen.
public. Anyone can watch the recording and figure out who said what.
That's true too.
You do, but anyone can.
And then for you, Jurg, I'll come up with like a draft stab at what I think project category should be in incubation based on what we currently have. And then the mentioned ideas behind the tooling working group, and then we could craft that into an OSC vision for incubation.
Yeah, the question that I want us to be able to answer is this a project that we want to accept or not? So what criteria are we looking for? And in that incubation program, I thought we had a document somewhere with, to enter incubation, you need to have at least this, and then to move on to the next stages, we will help you. We coach you, mentor you to reach these milestones, and then when you reach them, we'll vote and say, yes, you're ready for the next phase in the program before we accept you as a permanent, mature project.
Yeah, it's this one. It's right under the life cycle.
Yeah. Jurg, could I ask you for a statement or a couple of statements that references what you were saying in this project incubation framework for our strategy? That way it's mentioned there and it kind of points to coming to follow the processes here. And again, we can continue to refine these, indefinitely.
Yeah, let's follow up offline. I think we're out of time.
Just on the onboarding topic, just to close, and I noticed Adam was saying maybe let's not waste the whole call, and maybe I think it's something that we can agree on. So my notes on this would be, sorry, let me just make sure if I can see you still. Yeah, with the leaving seat members, I would invite them to attend the onboarding call and going forward to come by whenever they can to contribute and catch up. I would host an onboarding call outside of the regular calls I can directly align with the onboarded people to welcome them and make sure they're aligned on our channels and everything. And then, yeah, so still, remaining members are highly encouraged to attend. Then I would suggest
I'll
that we.
attend.
Sorry.
I'll attend. Don't worry.
I would suggest that we do like an onboarding phase. Well, so we don't vote on we don't select new chairs or something on the first or second calls. So at least on the third call, after the onboarding, we could vote. So here, that's what I'm saying. We could decide to consider deciding on a new co-chair. This is what I think has been done on other committees. But still, this whole approach, we can decide it when we get to our third call. Are we deciding on a new co-chair that then rolls over to become the chair in October, or what do we want to do? But from here to there, I just wanted your approval on this bit. Yeah. Okay, so that's what I'll do. No other topics? Thank you so much. See you in a bit. Keep in touch on the chat. Thanks. Take care.
Have a lovely day. Oh, SBO call's coming up shortly.
Bye.